Dr. Shawn Wilson is the boss, the big guy, the leather chair at the state's Department of Transportation and Development. Hey, Dr. Shawn, how are you today?
Good morning, Robert, and good morning, Aaron. How y'all doing?
Morning.
Now, you said her name in a friendly, amicable, upbeat way right now. In about 30 seconds or less, you may not be. She's going to wipe the smile off your face. You're the guy.
Well, I don't think there's anything she can do to wipe the smile off my face. I am patiently waiting to become a grandfather any minute.
Oh,
so,
congrats.
For the first time. So how'd you like that one, Aaron?
Oh, I love it, Gramps.
And maintaining your youthful, you and I have to talk skincare regimen later. Because
are you going to be Papa?
I have not told anyone my name, and my wife is probably listening to the show, and if I shared it with you, I'd be in big trouble.
Oh,
I like all the old-sounding stuff.
Not Papa.
It's not Papa. Yeah.
Daddy Shawn, all the really creaky old Walton-sounding stuff.
I was watching some of the Senate yesterday, and they started talking about the mega projects list for roads and how they needed to find funding to match to bring in the federal dollars. And I thought, I'm going to go look at this mega projects list. And Dr. Shawn Paps, I found something on there that kind of shocked me. And I'm like, I feel like an idiot because I think this has been out there. But there's on the list, the A list, which is your, I guess, top priority, were a couple of local projects that I didn't even know were in the mill. Widening I-20 from Benton Road to 220 is on the list as an A priority. Widening I-20 from the Red River Bridge to I-49, widening that to 6 lanes. Those are ahead of Jimmy Davis Bridge, the I-49 Intercity Connector, the Barksdale new entrance. What motivated that? Where did that come from?
So the most important thing I can tell you is 2 things. One, this is a cost-contained list based on funding scenarios. And then 2, it's based on a number of projects that regional entities all weigh in on. So this was not an exclusive decision by the department. And just because a project is in Project A doesn't mean that all of A will go before Project B. You also have to look at the project readiness. And so when you look at something like I-20 and the major capacity challenges there, you can break those projects up into small, manageable chunks. You can let them all at one time. And you have to consider what's the implications and the cost benefit of each of those projects. And so it is one of the most confusing things, I think, for the public is to see this list A, B, C, and D, and they automatically assume that everything in A has to go before B, which is not the case. It was really based on engineering, timing, funding scenarios, as well as the ability to generate additional dollars to help leverage some of those projects.
So basically what you're telling her is when she's looking at this list and jumping up and down and throwing stuff is that the widening of the Red River Bridge at I-20 is not the number one priority as far as the state of Louisiana is concerned.
Well, I won't tell you that it's the number one priority as far as Louisiana is concerned because we have to work with MPOs and the Regional Planning Organization. And so within the footprint of that MPO, there are a number of number one projects. That does not necessarily mean that it is more important than another. It just means there's some different implications and funding. For example, the interstate has to take priority over many other roads in terms of federal funds because of the match becomes 90-10, but also it moves a great number of cars, perhaps more than a road that is a 4-lane road or a U.S. highway or something to that effect.
Or so like a bridge over the Red, like a bridge over the Red River.
Like a bridge over Red River,
yeah.
absolutely. So when you look at that, we have some obligations to the federal government to maintain certain things, as well as maintain a certain level of performance. And so when you go through I-20, there's some original stretches of pavement on I-20 that are already extremely over capacity. And so for the federal perspective, if we don't start addressing those projects, we could potentially lose revenue or have funds directed to those projects. And so it's a very complex process. I can just assure you our goal is to do as much as we would be able to do with the funds we have. And remember, this A and B list is $10.6 billion, which is huge, and it has to happen over time. You can't just spend $10.6 billion and no one will be able to move because of the construction. But that's the reality. It's a pretty comprehensive list.
Let me ask you this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm a nosy woman, as you well know. I keep my tentacles in as much as I can. I'm sorry. I never heard that we needed to widen the I-20 right there. Why is that just done quietly, or it's not controversial? Why am I just seeing this?
You haven't been seeing it because folks tend to take for granted those things that they don't necessarily use as often. And so if you drive over the Jimmy Davis Bridge every morning and deal with that congestion and that condition, you're going to be frustrated because it's that way every day. I-20 carries many people, perhaps some of the same people, but many folks are traveling it for the first time. And here's the other secret about when you widen an interstate. If I have to repave I-20, I have to maintain at least 2 lanes of traffic. And so when you look at a capacity project of adding a lane, a big part of that has to do with pavement preservation and not purely just capacity. Folks could care less about doing what we've already done. They all want something new and shiny, as opposed to taking care of the daily routine stuff like you do at home, changing a light bulb, putting new carpet or a new roof every 30 years.
Mowing the grass, yeah.
Mowing the grass, absolutely. That's what you have kids for, right?
Since you brought up mowing the grass, can I ask you a question?
You can ask me a question.
Okay. You send us $240,000 to mow.
Say again?
The state sends us $240,000 a year, the city of Shreveport, to mow the grass on I-20, I-49, 31, 32.
Correct.
The city chips in some money too. What if it's not getting mowed?
If it's not getting mowed, then we have performance standards on that contract. But most importantly, I'll tell you, when we mow, we only pay for so many mowing cycles per year. You might only mow 7, 8 cycles a year and have about 10 to 12 litter pickups a year.
Okay.
And so the other challenge is when we have short-term budget constraints and we have to cut the budget. For example, if that budget that had passed in the session that the governor vetoed, had he signed that, we'd have had about a $20 million reduction. I'd have had to find about $20 million quickly. The best place to find that and produce that savings is on contract maintenance. Contract maintenance includes things like mowing, and so those are the things that would have been reduced had the budget been reduced. And so if they're not cutting it, we go out and do checks, and we actually verify that is getting cut, and they get their reimbursement. So it's not as though they get a check for $240,000 and then just disappear.
Okay. Well, just check 3132 when you get a chance. Next time you're up here.
I will do it.
Use one of your drones. I know you've got those suckers flying around.
Papa, it was so great talking to you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And congratulations, no matter what the grandfatherly moniker happens to be. We're happy for you, man. Congratulations.
As long as it's a healthy little girl and mom and dad are doing well, I'll be blessed.
You're in our prayers. Thank you, sir.